Happy Monday, fifth graders. Today we are going to start working on recognizing and generating equivalent decimals, fractions, and mixed numbers and improper fractions in various contexts. What that means is that we are going to work on finding equivalent fractions and decimals. And today it's going to be a little bit different because you guys are going to be asked to take notes during our video. So the very first thing I want you to do is pause the video, take out your math notebook right now, and write this in your table of contents. Once you have written this in your table of contents, go ahead and turn to your next blank page to get ready to take some more notes. Today we are going to work on turning fractions into decimals. So you're going to see problems that look just like this. It says express the fraction as a decimal, and then you see directions right here. I'm going to explain those directions too, and you guys are going to do some examples in your notebook to see exactly what you're expected to do. So right now, on that next blank page, pause the video and write fractions as decimals at the top. Once you have written that, go ahead and write this example, 39 thousandths. That's the first number we're going to work with. We're going to take that fraction and turn it into a decimal. Well, what's really important is to always read our fractions out loud. So when I read 39 thousandths, I can hear the word thousandths, and I know that thousandths is a place because after our decimal point, we have the tenths, hundredths, and thousandths. So if your denominator is already a 10, a 100, or 1000, you can go straight to your decimal places. So all you need to do is make lines and a decimal point to show you that number of places. So here's what you're going to do in your notebook. Make a line for your ones place, a decimal point, a line for your tenths, a line for your hundredths, and a line for your thousandths. Since this is already out of 1000, I can see right here, I can just write that already as a decimal. And what I need to remember is that when we read our decimal places, the only name we say is where our number ends. So when I write this, the 9 has to end in the thousandths place. To make sure I do that right, I go like this. I put my 3 and my 9 in the 39 thousandths place. So the 3 is going to be in the hundredths, the 9 is in the thousandths, and then that means I have to put a 0 in the ones and a 0 in the tenths. Make sure you have that in your notebook, so pause the video if you need to write it down. This would be work that you would show on your slides. So this would be what you're taking a picture of on your slides for problems that look like this one. So if you were to go back to this slide, you would take a picture of that notebook and then type your answer in right here. So now I'm going to show you what do you do when you have a fraction that doesn't already have a decimal place in the denominator. So here we have 5 and 1/4. So in your notebook that you already have out, go ahead and draw your horizontal line underneath the work that you just did, because now we're going to do another example in our notebook. So go ahead and write 5 and 1/4 equals. Now remember, we can only go straight from a fraction to a decimal when we hear the name of a decimal place. Tenths, hundredths, thousandths. Fourth is not a decimal place. So we need to turn this into an equivalent fraction that has a 10, 100, or 1000 in the denominator. Well, if I count by fours, I'm not going to land on 10. So I cannot turn this into an equivalent fraction with a 10 in the denominator. However, I can turn it into an equivalent fraction with a 100 in the denominator because I know my quarters, and I know 4 quarters equals $1 or 100 cents. So I'm writing equals, and I know that I need to have my denominator be a 100 here so that I can turn it into a decimal. And I know that 4 times 25 is how I would get to 100. You do the same thing to the denominator and the numerator. 1 times 25 is 25. Now I have 5 and 25 hundredths. Now I hear that decimal place, hundredths. So now I can make my ones decimal point, tenths, and hundredths places because I know this has to go to the hundredths. When I'm writing this number as a decimal, the whole number is going to go in the ones place. Whole numbers have to go to the left of the decimal. So I put my 5 there, and this says 25 hundredths, which means my 25 has to end in the hundredths place. 5 and 25 hundredths. Pause the video, make sure you have everything written that I have. And then we're going to do one more example today. So you might see a one again that looks like this. Here we have our mixed number and we want to turn it into a decimal. But right here, I don't see a tenth or 100th or 1000th. So again, in your notebook, go ahead and make your horizontal line. We're going to do one more example on this page. Write 3 and 3/8 equals. Pause the video if you need to have time. Now, 8 is the one number that's going to be a little bit trickier, and we're just going to have to memorize. Because if I count by 8s, I don't land on 10. 8 is not a factor of 10. It's also not a factor of 100, but it is a factor of 1000. So this is one we're just going to have to memorize. 8 times 125 equals 1000. We're going to remember this. Anytime we have an 8 in the denominator and we need to turn it into a decimal, we have to get to our tenths, hundredths, or thousandths place. Always remember 8 times 125 is 1000. Remember, whatever we do to the denominator, we have to do to the numerator. 3 times 125 is 375. So now I have 3 and 375 thousandths. That I can write as a decimal. So again, you put your equal sign and then you put your places. I have a whole number and I know I have to go to my thousandths place, so I would write ones, decimal point, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. Again, a whole number is going to go in my ones place. And then I see my 375 has to end in my thousandths place, 375 thousandths. Again, pause the video, make sure you have all of this written. The very first thing you're going to be asked to do today on your math slides is take a picture of your notes from this video and put them on the very first slide. So make sure that you took notes with the video so you have those 3 examples that you did with me, because you're going to put them in your slide right here. After you take a picture and put them right here of your notes, you are then going to do some problems on your own. So they're going to look very similar to the 3 we just did. So you take a picture of your work and you type your final answer in. And then you have a couple of problems where you will be doing multiple choice, but same thing, you're just taking a picture of your work before you choose multiple choice. And another one, this is very similar to the other ones we just had. You just have to type the decimal into the box and then rate yourself and submit your slides on Schoology.